Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. Welcome to another edition of Same Shite, Different Night. In this edition, of course, we have the Acolyte, Amanda Stenberg, condemns individuals sending her death threats, alleged death threats. Now, why on earth would John F. Trent come out and say alleged death threats? Because surely Amanda Stenberg has the receipts to back up her claims. But as you'll see in the article, well, let's just see for ourselves. Welcomes criticism of the show. Believe me, there is a laundry list of criticisms through 7 episodes as of this recording, and boy, oh boy, I couldn't even get past the first episode without losing my damn mind. Acolyte actress Amanda Stenberg, who plays twins Osha and May in the series, recently responded and condemned alleged intolerable racism. Show your receipts. And death threats. Definitely want to show those receipts. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you're sending death threats to these actors and actresses, well, I'll just be straight up. You're a piece of garbage. You want to criticize a story, criticize the writing, criticize the performance. Be my guest. That's what we do. We criticize the direction of the story, the characters of the beloved franchises we have grown to love for decades and decades. But when you start getting personal, that's a bit much. Now, the problem here is that we haven't seen not even a single receipt. At least Moses Ingram came out with a few tweets, a few screenshots, a few receipts to show everyone that, yes, it was actually happening, regardless of how tame you may or may not think they were. She still provided them. But so far, as of late, you think if Amanda Stenberg did actually have receipts, they would be you'd have one article after another coming out from Kotaku, from just every single mainstream outlet out there. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now. During an interview on The View, oh boy, which is broadcast on ABC, we couldn't care less about that, one of the show's hosts questioned, quote, "Unfortunately, the success of the show," I don't think you know what that word means, but you are on The View, "has made you the target of, target by some of the right wing, because criticism of your show can only come from the right wing for the inclusive casting." Oh, get bent. Fucking bellends. Oh, inclusive casting, because that's why we're criticizing the show, right? Has nothing to do with the writing, which is something Whoopi talks about all the time. You have received horrific racist backlash. I don't believe you until you show the receipts, including threats and what you call intolerable racism. That is your quote. Well, quote without receipts means nothing. Can you talk about that little bit and what that has been like? Let's go ahead and take a moment and see actually what they have to say here.
The success of this show has made you a target by some in the right wing for the...
I can't stand. I'm sorry, I have to pause this again. By some in the right wing. The very idea that criticism of Star Wars can only be coming from the right wing, because obviously the left wing, progressives, liberals, will just eat up anything and everything Disney Star Wars puts out there, right? Do you understand how nonsensically moronic that sounds? I'm not going to edit it out.
Inclusive casting, which is something Whoopi talks about all the time. You have received horrific racist backlash, including threats.
Show your receipts or your words mean nothing.
And what you call intolerable racism, that is your quote. Can you talk about that a little bit? And what has that been like?
What has that been like, other than the oh-so-wonderful video and song you put together in 72 hours about we don't with the old discourse? That video was a joke and has been memed gloriously across the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you giving me the space to speak about it.
you have all kinds of space. You have social media. You have the ability to blast individuals all across social media, which maybe, just maybe, if you actually had the receipts and showed them off to everybody, edit out people's names if you so choose to, but maybe it would endear people to your sentiment, to your cause, perhaps, if they actually existed.
It's been very painful for me. It's not something that I think you can emotionally...
Unless, of course, it's only the actual criticism that she calls intolerable racism, the fact that your performance is, mediocre at best, piss poor at worst, and the story that you're involved in makes no sense half the time whatsoever. The writing is terrible. The pacing is terrible. Just, it's a murder mystery that has no mystery whatsoever. Moving on.
Prepare for. And we welcome criticism of the show when
not a single one of you welcomes any sort of criticism, because every ounce of criticism that has been put out there, you label as bigoted, racist, misogynist, istophobic over and over and over again. I don't feel like listening to this. We're going to go ahead and read the quotes because John F. Trent went ahead and watched the video, so we don't have to. It's very painful to me. It's not something that I think you can emotionally prepare for, although y'all constantly come out with article after article before the show even comes out talking about the intolerable racism. She then declared she and the show are open to criticism. Liar. And we welcome criticism of the show when it comes to storytelling and performance. Well, you've been getting nonstop criticism week after week by content creators such as myself and those who are far better at reviewing than I am. And again, the response is, you're just a bigot. How is that an indication of you welcoming criticism when it comes to the storytelling and performance? When it comes to death threats, horrific and violent racist language, it's unacceptable to me. Well, I have news for you, darling. Or maybe I shouldn't say darling. I have news for you, Amanda Stenberg. That's pretty much unacceptable to anybody. Regardless of what side of the ideological fence you're on, we don't like it either. We don't care for it. Although, it seems that only one side is able to show the receipts when it comes to the death threats and horrific and violent racist language, such as, I don't know, people putting out bounties on people's heads for talking about video games, but what do I know? Good quote continues. And I've had to think really deep and hard about what you display, when you display discipline, and when you display honor. What the hellish kind of speech are we going on about? And I guess what I mean by that is when you do decide to utilize discipline and not engage in a reactive way. Maybe I should have let her speak because I can't read for shit right now. Let's try this again. And I guess what I mean by that is when you do decide to utilize discipline to not engage in a reactive way to hatred, and when you decide to engage in honor by honoring your values and your belief system. You mean like the video that you put out? Was that displaying honor? Okay. In this case, I decided that was the most important thing to me, to be vocal, because I think that silence can send a message as well. But you weren't silent. That's the whole thing. You weren't silent. You came out with the most cringeworthy video imaginable when people started to criticize the show. And you called it racist and misogynist and started talking about 400 years, whatever. Inaction can be very dangerous. Okay. From there, she referenced the music video and song that she released on Instagram, quote, and so, well, I dropped a diss track that just made everyone laugh at you. I dropped a diss track about it, again, and it's called Discourse. And it really is about, of course, what I've been experiencing, but it's also about the divisiveness of culture and how difficult for all of us now to navigate information in this new era. It's so difficult to tell what is true, online. Well, what is definitely true is that the Acolyte has the lowest audience score of any Star Wars feature out there, even going lower than the Christmas special. Now, that's an achievement. Navigating information in this new era, You put out a diss track that people pointed and laughed at and make jokes at. I do not think it accomplished what you meant it to accomplish. She continued, and these online algorithms, they shape our realities, and our thinking and clickbait journalism, and these algorithms also profit from our rage and our hatred. And I feel that, and you just poured fuel on the fire with your video. It definitely did not accomplish what you wanted it to. Oh my goodness. And I feel that's something we are aware of, but we don't necessarily have enough discourse or infrastructure around because it's so new. What's so new? YouTube's not new. The internet's not new. What infrastructure could she be talking about? Furstenberg has not shared any evidence of these death threats because that side never seems to be able to do that. Over and over again, we get accusations or claims of death threats and overly racist messages that these people are getting, regardless of what project they are attached to, whether they are the game journalists, the actors, actresses, people involved with all these projects claiming to get nasty, nasty messages. And yet, they're just claims. Zero evidence whatsoever. Second, the Disney company is engaging in inclusive casting. Who cares about inclusive casting? That should not be at the forefront of your show. That should not be the number one thing in the marketing of your show. Talk about the story. The story should be first. I'm a broken record here. Make the story fun, interesting, and engaging. Put all the inclusivity in after the fact. Go with the story first. See how that works out for you. American Legal, EEOC, Disney company Disney admits and affirms that it knowingly and intentionally uses race, color, sex, and blah, 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 blah. So, nonsense. Let's see. As far as the idea that the show is open to criticism seems to be a new narrative that Steinberg is spinning. The Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland previously indicated that negative reviews from viewers were, quote, review bombing. That's more proof that what she said is a lie. Nobody takes them seriously. They're not interested in any sort of criticism. They're not interested in any sort of open dialogue. Any and all criticism coming in about this show will be labeled as nothing more than misogynist, istophobic, racism, bigotry, blah, blah, blah. It's, like I said at the beginning, same shite, different night. It's an NPC playbook. I know it's a cliche buzzword, but that's how it comes across over and over again. Articles like this, statements like this from Amanda Stenberg are starting to come out before the shows are even released. They are preparing the actors and actresses for the oncoming onslaught of racial criticism, when all we're doing generally, it's like specifically, I know in my videos and all the reviews that I've been watching after each episode of The Acolyte to see, hey, was there anything stupid that I missed? Not a single one of them talks about race, gender, sexuality outside of, in The Acolyte's case, talking about the lesbian space witches, but that is how it is portrayed in the show. And generally, they're hyperbolic comedy jokes. But I guess we can't do jokes anymore about sexuality because that's a protected class. But my goodness, I cannot wait to talk about this episode of The Acolyte because it did absolutely nothing to make sense of the other flashback episode, but that's it. Moore condemns individuals sending her alleged death threats. Show the receipts or shut up. That's all I've got to say on that one. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things that you do beg you to do, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.